is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, Norml.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Norml Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Norml. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to think and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Norml Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Norml's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome. It is Monday, March 5th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here for the show. We're going to have ourselves a good time. Sitting to my right, holding things down in the chat room, we got Ganja John hanging out. How you doing, John?
What's up, Russ? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Starting out a brand new week, and 3-day week. We're going to be out at the Houston, Texas, at Rice University. I didn't get the right Ganja John cam up, did I? I was showing an empty chair.
So.
There's Ganja John.
What's up, guys?
There he is. That looks a whole lot better than an empty chair.
I'm all ducked out today.
And so I'm headed to Houston. No shows on Thursday or Friday. I'll be debating Dr. Kevin Sabet, and we'll try to stream that live for you on Friday. Also joining us from the newly reopened virtual studio in beautiful Astoria, Oregon, our senior news editor, Cannabis Carrie.
Hi, Russ. Good to be back.
They got internets back up there in Astoria now.
Barely, like an hour before the freaking show.
Nothing like a little pressure, huh?
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Megan Dabbs had me all set up. Thank you, Megan Dabbs, for letting me literally phone it in on Friday.
Right on. All right, so Carrie brings us our hemp headlines after the first break. What do we got in the news today?
Well, today we need to address this continuing crackdown on dispensaries, both in the state of California and Colorado. Also, a health alert that needs to be issued about some synthetic marijuana, also up on Hemp Headlines today, Russ.
All right, we'll check that out. Also, if there's time, I'll take a look at a report that came out last week on marijuana and driving. It kind of segues into my rant for today, which is a look at cannabis and driving, a rational review. This is something that's been written up by Paul Armentano and updated every year at the Norml website. I want to give you the breakdown, the basic facts, the truth about marijuana and driving. Also on today's show at half past, we've got a guest joining us, Adam Smith from the I-24 constitutional amendment here in Oregon that would define a personal right to marijuana. And of course, it's Roots Monday, so at 20 after, I'm going to bring you Daily Toker Tune. This is one that Herb Thrasher turned me on to, some alt country from Jake Orvis. The tune is called Dreadful Sinner, and we got a video to go with it as well. All that in Toker Talk Radio in Hour 2, where you can call in and make your voice heard, coming up next on Norml Show Live. Stick around.
You're listening to Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hi, I'm Radical Russ. One of the best things about marijuana is the wonderful aroma. But when you travel a lot like I do, that aroma becomes a suspicious smell. That's why I endorse stealth-products.com, the leaders in smell-proof containers. From smell-proof vacuum bags to smell-proof backpacks and duffel bags, all the way to smell-proof digital safes, stealth-products.com has you covered. Stealth-products.com brings you safe, secure, odorless layers of protection with activated carbon fiber. Backpacks and duffel bags are simple black so as not to attract attention with a logo or a flashy design. Now, nothing is perfectly odor controlled from the detection of drug dogs, but with proper vigilance, containers from stealth-products.com will help you avoid nosy humans.
You're now listening to Elliot Beats.
Stealth-products.com. Stealth-products.com.
Hey, this is Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger Seeds, TGAgenetics.com, and you're listening to Norml Show Live.
Weedmaps.com. I'm Radical Russ from Norml. In my job as outreach coordinator, I travel every month, and when I'm on the road, I need a fast, accurate way to find the medical marijuana dispensaries in the area. So I turn to Weedmaps.com. Weedmaps.com has the best dispensary locator online or on your mobile device. Search by zip code or let Weedmaps find you, and in seconds you'll have the addresses, phone numbers, and customer service reviews for the medical marijuana dispensaries in the local area. Weedmaps.com also has a section devoted to helping you find a doctor who understands and recommends medical marijuana under your state's law. You can even check prices on the Medical Marijuana Stock Exchange. Coming soon, you'll even be able to find the listings of Norml attorneys and chapters, local head shops and grow shops, and the best weed-friendly businesses. Weedmaps.com has the information you need to be an informed cannabis consumer. Visit Weedmaps.com today, a proud sponsor of the Norml Network.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Norml News with Cannabis Carrie.
Medical marijuana activists in California faced another roadblock in their efforts to get the pressure off of dispensaries and collectives in the state. A federal judge in Sacramento dismissed a lawsuit by the medical marijuana industry that said the Obama administration broke its promise to leave state-abiding citizens alone. In October in 2009, the now infamous Ogden memo was from the Attorney General to federal prosecutors to not focus any federal resources on pursuing medical marijuana operations in states that have medical marijuana laws, but rather to focus on large drug trafficking networks. But in October of last year, the Department of Justice launched a new attack on stores selling cannabis and cannabis products, citing the industry's explosive growth. U.S. attorneys have led the recent attempts by the feds to target medical marijuana businesses by sending out threatening letters to owners and landlords. Since that move, many medical cannabis clubs and dispensaries in the state of California have been forced to shut down. 5 in San Francisco, including the Marin Alliance for Medical Marijuana, California's oldest medical cannabis club. And there are dozens more just in San Francisco on a so-called hit list of shops that have been put on notice that they are currently under investigation. The lawsuit in Sacramento was one of several that were filed last November who cited the Ogden memo as a basis for their action. But U.S. Attorney District Judge Garland Burrell said in his dismissal of the case that the memo cannot be considered a binding commitment, just a statement of priorities. Activists are disappointed that they will not get to hear their case go to trial. Matt Cuman, a lawyer for one of the dispensaries listed in the case, says that the federal government blocking this has become irrational since we have now established that there is a clear medical use of cannabis, citing the clinical trials of Sativex as proof that scientists believe marijuana has a medical benefit. The dismissal of this case in the state's capital does not bode well for similar lawsuits that have been filed in Los Angeles and Oakland.
Yeah, unfortunately, you got the situation here where we're talking about a memo and a statement of priorities. And unfortunately, that does not carry the full weight of law. I know people wanted to make the estoppel argument, this entrapment argument. Hey, the government said they weren't going to go after dispensaries if we operate legally and under the state law. Which is not exactly what they said. What they said was it would be a bad use of federal resources to do so. They didn't say they were going to stop doing it. It's kind of like when we pass these lowest law enforcement priority initiatives with cannabis in some of the cities, right? We say, marijuana should be the lowest law enforcement priority. Well, that means it's still a law enforcement priority. It's still on the list of things they can bust you for. So yeah, while people in general conversation and just general understanding might have seen the Ogden memo and thought, well, gosh, that sounds like a green light to me. We're going to go right ahead and open up our dispensary. It wasn't really a green light. It was just a statement of priorities. And that's the unfortunate technicality under the law that we have to deal with. There are many more arguments to be made on this case. And one place that I would encourage attorneys to start looking is at the lawsuit that's currently winding its way to the Supreme Court regarding the Obama administration's mandate that people buy health insurance, private health insurance. Conservatives are attacking this using the idea here that the Commerce Clause can't possibly tell people that they have to buy something, that the federal government can force them to buy something. And there are many really interesting legal issues tied up in the arguments that actually bring back the Raich decision and refer to the Raich decision, the medical marijuana decision that said the feds could go after medical marijuana no matter what the states say. There's an interesting novel legal argument that could be made there that could possibly not only benefit what the conservatives are trying to do in ending this mandate to purchase private health insurance, but also help us in erasing that mandate from the federal government that says they can go after completely intrastate medical personal use marijuana. And we've got to try every possible angle we've got here to end this prohibition.
Called a follow-up to that last story, the U.S. Attorney for the state of Colorado sent a letter to a lawyer that was representing a medical marijuana dispensary on Friday. Attorney Walsh advised him that there is no safe harbor for a medical marijuana dispensary as long as it remains illegal under federal law. Also, he said to advise his clients that there was one would be, quote, incorrect and untruthful and would mislead them factually and legally. Now, in the current political climate, letters like these only bolster the idea in the marijuana industry that they are all being targeted by the federal government. 23 dispensaries in the state received letters a few months ago saying that they were not in compliance with being at least 1,000 feet from a school, and they needed to shut their doors or face raids, prosecution, and forfeiture of their assets. Local governments can modify that school zone restriction, and some of the dispensaries were grandfathered in if they complied with all the other restrictions. Now, to back up that letter from Friday, a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office, Jeff Dorscher, said this morning in response to media requests that there could be other factors that can close down a shop, like having firearms or non-compliance with amounts or other issues, but said that it was not possible to answer the question whether a medical marijuana shop in compliance with state rules and regulation would still face any trouble.
Well, once again, I mean, it's just underlining and underscoring what we all know. Medical marijuana is illegal under federal law. There is no safe harbor. It doesn't matter how the states decide to regulate it. It doesn't matter what laws the states pass, how many initiatives, how many votes, what goes on. As far as the federal government is concerned, marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic with no medical use, high level of abuse, and no accepted safety procedures to go with it. We all know it's wrong. We all know that it makes no scientific sense whatsoever, makes no social science sense whatsoever. We all know that every government that's ever studied the issue, that's ever put any peer-reviewed research into this, has recommended decriminalization of marijuana, has recommended that the prohibition of marijuana causes more problems than it is intended to solve. It doesn't matter. They've got their eyes closed, their ears closed. They don't want to hear it. Marijuana is illegal for all purposes under federal law. Even growing industrial hemp, something that's not a drug, something that every other industrialized country in the world that still bans cannabis allows. Every other country allows you to grow hemp except the United States of America. Now, we can examine all sorts of reasons behind this, all sorts of puppets pulling strings from various industries who don't want to see marijuana legalized. Big Pharma, I'm looking at you. Big energy, big oil, and others. But it doesn't matter. As far as the feds are concerned, it is federally illegal. And that's why I say when we go forward in this battle against prohibition, ignore the feds. The feds don't matter. We can't change the Fed's mind. We've brought every great argument possible to bear, every lawsuit possible, every reading of facts and science and reason, and they just find some way to twist out of it. They'll just find, well, Controlled Substances Act says it's illegal, so it's illegal. Drugs are bad, okay? It's always going to go that way. That's why it's important to get involved at the local level and at the state level. The only entities large enough and important enough to take on the feds on this issue are the states themselves. This has to set up into a states versus federal rights issue, and the only way it'll be solved is when we legalize in one state or two or more and force this to go before the courts and force the feds to finally back off on their prohibition of marijuana.
And health officials are warning the public in the town of Casper, Wyoming, that smoking synthetic marijuana may cause serious health problems. 5 people in the town of around 55,000 residents were hospitalized this weekend with back and stomach pain and vomiting and more serious kidney failure. All of those sick reported smoking blueberry-flavored spice. Now, health officials are looking into 2 similar cases from last week to see if there may be a connection. The Casper-Natrona County Health Department said that they are still looking into the cause of the similar symptoms reported at the hospital, but they have sent a sample of the batch of spice thought responsible for the outbreak to the Wyoming State Crime Laboratory for testing. They're looking to see exactly what chemicals are in the substance sold in local head shops and some truck stops. The Wyoming State Health Department also put out an alert to healthcare providers around the state, alerting them to the possible connection between the reported symptoms and blueberry-flavored spice. Spice or similar products like K2 are usually made up of plant material sprayed with designer-type drugs made to try and mimic the effects of THC. More than 20 states have now taken steps to make the product illegal, including Wyoming. The USDA has had a ban on several of the chemicals that were made in the original product, causing the mostly Asian suppliers to change the formula. This has led to a class of drugs that have not been tested but are currently in the consumer market by way of deceptive packaging designed to skirt the law. Last Wednesday, the DEA extended that ban for another 6 months as they want to wait to complete a list of the most current use substances found in the fake marijuana products. But that has led to other problems. In Florida and Virginia last year, the state, with the help from the feds, raided some shops that sold what they thought was the banned chemicals, seizing almost $1 million worth of products, only to find out later in tests that it was one of the newer versions and not on any law books. Even though the product is sold in head shops or smoke shops in marijuana-like increments, either in grams or eighths or quarter ounces with names mimicking well-known marijuana strains, the packages are marked with a not for human consumption and labeled as incense. The state epidemiologist released a statement saying that they are viewing the use of this drug as potentially life-threatening and are also warning shops to voluntarily pull this product.
Yes, and this just in, the number of kidney failures attributable to smoking natural marijuana is 0. That's right, 0. And people would be smoking the natural marijuana if it weren't illegal. They wouldn't be turning to things like K2 and spice. And it's more than just getting marijuana legal. It's also ending this urine testing, this stupid drug testing for marijuana metabolites. Because even if marijuana's legal, if they continue to drug test for it for jobs, for assistance, for well, who knows what, then people will continue to look for alternatives that will not show up on the drug tests. They'll start using the K2 and spice again, like they're doing in great numbers in the U.S. military to try to beat the drug tests. Give the people their weed. And when it comes to kidneys, I just happen to know a guy who has a little bit of experience on this, who may have used marijuana from time to time. And how are your kidneys doing, John?
Pretty fucking good.
That's the official doctor's report?
Official.
All right. See, folks, and this is a guy who's been through kidney dialysis, who's had his kidney, got a new kidney, and is doing great, doing just fine. And believe me, smoking a lot of weed.
A lot of weed.
A lot of weed. If it were harmful, we'd know by now. The guy's healthier than he's ever been in his life. But not with K2, man. If you were using K2 or spice.
No, I'd want you to slap it out of my face. Or slap me in the face if I was trying to smoke that shit.
That's right. Stay away from that stuff, folks. I know everyone's desperate, and you're in a dry state and there's a drought out there and you can't get any weed and you really want to get high, you want to use something. It's not worth it, man. It's really not worth it. I would encourage you rather to drink alcohol than to use K2 or spice. And I don't usually advise people to drink, man, but at least with alcohol, we know where its safety tolerances are. You know how much you can have. You're not going to get some spiked, poisoned bottle at the 7-Eleven or something if you go buy yourself a 40 ounce, right? If you really got to tie one on and your only choice is K2 or alcohol, please pick the alcohol. This stuff isn't tested. It's unsafe. We don't know what's going on with it. It's variable. And the more they keep monkeying with the chemical, monkeying with the molecule, in order to skirt whatever law is passed to try to ban it, the farther out into uncharted territories we get with this stuff. Don't take risks like that with your life. Stick with the real thing. Get yourself a beer if you have to, but please stay away from that K2 and spice. All right, thanks, Carrie, for the news. And in other news, this came up last week, and we may have mentioned it in passing, but a new study is out from authors at the University of Montana, University of Washington, University of Oregon, worked on data, and this is being reported from time.com, Time Magazine. Maya Salovitz writing, why medical marijuana laws reduce traffic deaths. And as she writes here, she says, the study has shown that in the 16 states that have medical marijuana compared to the states that do not, they have seen a whopping drop of 9% in traffic fatalities in the states that have medical marijuana laws. And they theorize it's because people are substituting marijuana for alcohol, and we all know alcohol drivers are far more dangerous than cannabis drivers. We're going to talk about this more in depth in our Radical Rant at the end of the show, so make sure you stick around. We're going to take a look at cannabis and driving, a rational review, and give you the facts you need to make the decisions in this issue.
What do you think about a break, Russ?
I think 20 after is the perfect time for a break, and we hope everybody out there can join us. We'll be right back after this with some Daily Toker tunes.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Norml Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215. Or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
How can you shoot women, children? Easy. You just don't eat them so much.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. And we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact Norml, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Roots Monday, our celebration of the music that evolved into the popular modern music of today. We pick the best of blues, country, folk, and jazz with a 420 feel and serve it up for you every Monday. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Norml Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. And for your Roots Monday today, I'm going to give you some music that I first picked up on Norml Rocks with Herb Thrasher. And if you haven't been joining us on Friday nights at 11 Eastern or 8 Pacific for that 2-hour rock and roll show with Herb Thrasher, you really ought to stop by. We have such a good time. Herb's got such an in-depth knowledge of hard rock and metal and the metal I call Cookie Monster metal, call it Cookie Monster metal because they sound like the Cookie Monster. Me want cookie now.
I can get with that.
Cookie Monster metal, right? But another genre that he likes to bring up, and he's from Alabama, right? So he brings up this genre that he calls hellbilly music. Hellbilly, and it's alt country. It's kind of like it's personified by Hank Williams III, right? The grandson of the legendary Hank Williams and the son of Hank Williams Jr. But it oftentimes features raunchy lyrics and kind of more of a kind of an edge to it than most country does. And this next artist that I'm going to bring you for this one is one of those. His name is Jake Orvis, and Jake with a Y in it, Jake Orvis. And we've got a video to go with this. It's a song called Dreadful Sinner, and it kind of exemplifies that alt country hellbilly sound that we're sometimes playing. In fact, Herb's last show was a hellbilly special. So if you want to know all about hellbilly, check out Norml Rocks on YouTube. You can get the videos for that latest show. All hellbilly music, including a local group called the Johnson Creek Stranglers. So great stuff. Here we go. Without further ado, this is Jake Orvis with Dreadful Sinner for your Roots Monday Daily Toker Tune.
The deputies have backed off. I need you to slow down. Where are you at?
Mercy, wrap your arms around me. Jesus, why did you not blind me? What does it take to become a righteous man? Like an oyster with a pearl inside it. Evil's here and I cannot hide it. Wickedness is painless, but its blade is strong and true. Mercy, wrap your arms around me. Jesus, why did you not blind me? What does it take to become a righteous man? Like an oyster with a pearl inside it. Evil's here and I cannot hide it. Wickedness is painless, but its blade is strong and true. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. That's what we do, gonna hold them down. That's what we do with the dreadful. Listen up, y'all, cause we're making no round.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
The children! My God! Won't somebody think of the children?
Look, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Remember, Mr. President, you once were just one bust away from being Barry the drug criminal.
Life ain't a box of chocolates gone. That's why people smoke weed and take bumps and drink way too damn much and get drunk and do it all over again first of the month.
Bitches have something to say.
All of us can get a piece of that pie. And the reason we don't have headway is because that 1% can't figure out how they're going to make all the money.
Bitches have something to say.
Your Sunday morning and Wednesday evening pot and politics immediately following Danny Danko's Free Weed here on
The Libra Lounge.
Norml, unlike any other marijuana or drug reform organization, is built from the ground up by grassroots activists. We are the Marijuana Smokers Lobby, and we aren't just anti-prohibition, we're pro-marijuana. Every week, we take some time to talk to the citizens of local Norml chapters across the country and around the world, as well as others who are working to make a difference in the fight to end adult marijuana prohibition. In this segment, we call Grassroots Activism.
All right, joining us by Skype right here in our state, right here in Oregon in the 503, we got Adam Smith from EndProhibitionNow.com, the campaign behind Initiative 24, a constitutional amendment regarding marijuana reform here in the Beaver State. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Russ, thanks, man. Actually, I just got it's EndProhibitionAgain.com.
Again.
Now that it's cool. It just went up. The campaign's new. We're just getting off the ground, and we're all getting through the early jitters. So don't worry about that.
That's the thing. EndProhibitionAgain.com is the website. And I brought that up in the intro because I thought it was a very, very clever way to frame this campaign. Tell me what kind of reaction you're getting from the general public as you talk about this initiative.
It's been terrific. We're at the moment. I mean, I don't have to tell you. Gallup says that more than half the country is ready to end prohibition. You look at the documentary that came out last year, Burns' documentary on prohibition. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting. The night that debuted on PBS, the president of the public broadcasting system talked very explicitly about the lessons of the documentary on prohibition that it has for us today. Mm-hmm. Everybody seems to understand that we're at a moment of making a real decision on this. And it's not just here. Globally, in the last month, 5 Latin American sitting presidents came out and said that we have to look at legalization, and the United States needs to look at its policy. And I think we've hit a tipping point.
Yeah, and certainly with the pressure from Latin American presidents and the carnage that we see in Mexico year after year, they've got a much more pressing reason to want to see the United States begin this discussion. So, Adam, Initiative 24, this initiative is a constitutional amendment, and I understand that takes a much higher bar to clear as far as signature gathering goes. How goes the signature counts, the funding, and the backing for this initiative?
Well, we have some core funding. We probably have about 65% of the money we need to get it on the ballot already committed. That means we need more money. Campaigns need money, and then once we're on the ballot, of course, it's going to cost us money to win this thing. And so, if any of your folks can write a check, say $42 be a good number, $420 be a good number. We'll take that donations, but things are moving along. We're over 40,000 signatures. We need about 185,000 raw signatures by July 6th to make 117,000 valid, and we're confident we're going to get there.
All right, so that gives us roughly 5 months, a little less than 5 months to get this done?
Little less than 5 months, and we're ramping it up, and as the weather starts to get nicer, it feels like the last couple of days, maybe winter has ended. I don't want to jinx it, but as people get outside, we should, the signature gathering should pick up. We've collected about between 5,000 and 6,000 each of the last 3 weeks, and we need to move that up to about 8,000, and we're on our way.
Adam, I don't know how long you've lived in Oregon, but have you heard of the February-March tease? That's what we're experiencing, man.
Russ, man, give me some hope, man. We got to get those signatures. I need to be outside a lot these next few weeks.
All right, it's going to be beautiful and sunny from now on in Portland, Oregon. All right. All right, so you get an opportunity here on the show that I can't ever give anyone else when they come on the show. Read me your initiative.
Okay, well, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to read the great thing is I'm going to read the ballot title first, because that really sums it up. The whole initiative is only 3 sentences long, which is I know why you're giving me this opportunity, and I appreciate it. Here is our ballot title, which we're very proud of. Amends Constitution, allows adult marijuana use, possession, production, except actions endangering children, public safety, state may regulate. That's it.
Great
Basically,
title.
If you're an adult, if you're not harming or endangering anyone, you can have it, you can use it, you can grow it, period. And I can read you the whole thing if you really want. But, okay, the full text of the measure. Except for actions that endanger minors or public safety, neither the criminal offenses and sanctions nor the laws of civil seizure and forfeiture of this state shall apply to the private personal use, possession, or production of marijuana by adults 21 years of age or older. The state may enact laws and regulations consistent with this amendment to reasonably define, limit, and regulate the use, possession, production, sale, or taxation of marijuana under state law. To allow the state time to enact laws and regulations consistent with this amendment shall become effective in the normal course, but shall not become operational until 6 months after its effective date. That is it.
And there you go. So create a constitutional amendment that recognizes a personal right to use and possess and grow cannabis, but nothing I hear in that actually repeals the criminal laws that exist. So would there still exist like criminal trafficking for, business purposes if people were trying to make a profit on it?
Right. We made a determination with this. Now I know that in some states they have initiatives, Colorado, Washington State, and possibly California, if they get off the ground, where they're going to try to set up a commercial system, and I think that's really important. It's important for us to try to set up, what the world should look like. But being that those are already moving forward, we made a determination that we wanted to go right to the heart of prohibition and say you are no longer prohibited, but not try to set up the commercial system. For a couple of reasons. Number one, we think that it may run into interference with the feds, and we wanted to avoid a long, lengthy fight with the feds. We wanted to set up an initiative that the minute it passes, it can become law, and the feds can stamp their feet. But unless they want to come police the streets of Oregon, there's nothing they can do about having it, growing it, using it. And so we also thought that we would give this a shot because, like I said, it's a 3-sentence long initiative. And, people can read it at the door. People can read it in the voter guide. People can hear about it on the street. They can read the entire thing. They can be certain that they know and understand it. We think that's going to be an advantage for us.
Now, you made this presentation at the recent Students for Sensible Drug Policy Forum at Lewis and Clark Law School. And one of the things that was pointed out there was the more, and I believe it was John Saja who made this point, the more things you put into the initiative, the more targets there are for opponents, both on their side and some on our side, to shoot at. Was that part of your thinking as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are people who wish that what we did was broader, tried to take care of every eventuality. But at its core, when people look at it and they say, well, what we're going to do is we're going to stop arresting adults who aren't hurting anyone. And everyone has so far been able to get on board with that. And as important as, getting folks that we need to convince is getting folks who are already on our side. And we've had a very strong response from the community. People are very excited about this. They know they can get behind it. And the way it works, because we didn't set everything up for a commercial system, it's one of the reasons we decided to do it as a constitutional amendment, because this makes it so that it's impossible for the legislature or the governor or future legislature to contravene the spirit of this of the amendment. And all of the marijuana policy in Oregon from here forward will have to fall within those parameters. If you are an adult and you are not endangering or harming others, you can have it, you can grow it, you can use it.
All right. So should this get on the ballot and pass, worst case scenario, the legislature could do nothing. Imagine that, a legislature doing nothing. And we'd end up with, you can have it, you can grow it, you can use it, but if you're buying, selling it, or trafficking it, you could still get busted. Or best case scenario, give them 6 months and they could actually put together a commercial system.
Right. Well, we're pretty confident that once the legislature takes a look at this and realize that people are going to be having it, growing it, and using it, they're going to wonder where their piece of the action is. Clearly the state is in need of revenues. All states are in need of revenues. And we think that what will end up happening, if not immediately, very soon thereafter, is that the legislature is going to start to think about how can they tax this? How can they set up a commercial system so they can get their piece of the action? And then we can go to the federal government hand in hand with the state and talk and say, look, we all want to do this well. And we think that that's going to put us in a very powerful position. As you said, though, if they do nothing, what we'll have a system where you can grow it, you can share it with your friends, you can have it as long as you're not giving it to kids and as long as you're not making any money on it, nobody can stop you.
All right. So this is endprohibitionagain.com, Initiative 24, for people who want to check it out. We're speaking with Adam Smith on this initiative. And the two factors that we see in campaigns in legalization that seem to have sticking power, that seem to get traction among our opponents' arguments are two. And they are, what about the stone drivers? And my God, what about the children? So how will your campaign go, to educating the public and fighting back against those kind of charges?
Well, let's start with the stone drivers. The initiative does not change the laws currently in place. If you are driving impaired, you are driving impaired, and we are not changing the laws around that. So if it's illegal right now to drive impaired in Oregon, it will be illegal after passage to drive impaired in Oregon. We don't think that. We think that answers the question. The protections remain in place. That falls under endangering the public, and so, we don't encourage people to use at all, or to certainly to get behind the wheel of a car if they're not straight and sober. And we're not looking to amend the laws right now that will stop you from doing that. The second question is the children, and that's a really interesting question. Obviously, we can go through all the conversations about how an entirely unregulated system makes access for kids almost inevitable. How kids right now, if you're 15 years old, it's easier under prohibition to get access to cannabis than it is to get access to alcohol. And that ultimately a regulated system where we know where it's being sold and we know, what the distribution networks are probably, certainly the best way to protect kids. But I'd like to, because we're talking to the community here, because you have an audience that's a little more sophisticated on this, I'd like to go to where I think this needs to go. And that is, if you are a parent, and I'm about to become a father for the first time, if you are a parent and you're a 15-year-old, if you think your 15-year-old is smoking weed, and right now, under the current laws, you are praying that your kid is not caught by the police. You are hoping that your kid does not end up in the criminal justice system. Nothing good in Oregon is going to happen for you or your family if your kid gets found by the police. As a matter of fact, if your kid's best friend's mother finds the two of them smoking weed in a basement and she turns them into the police, you'd take her head off. You'd wonder what the heck is wrong with her. What should happen to that kid if he gets caught smoking weed? He should be brought to you. He should be brought to his parents, remanded to the custody of their parents. I think ultimately in this country where we need to go and is in that direction, because I think that no parent wants their kid having their lives destroyed because they smoked a weed. We know for a fact that marijuana is not fatal to 15-year-olds, but we also know that getting 15-year-olds caught up in the criminal justice system, which we do all the time here in Oregon for possession, can be fatal to their economic chances, to their chances at school, to their lives. They will, lose their driver's license. They'll have a permanent record. And ultimately, I think the parents in this state would want their child brought to them, and because and have them deal with it. And I think that's the direction that we need to go.
And the thing is, though, with the amendment dealing with adults, and for this definition, are we talking 21 and over for adults?
Right now, so it's 21 and over, and the reason that it's 21 and over is because, number one, we have to get it passed, right? And there just is, it's a fight. If we lower it below 21, we start into an argument that takes us down the road away from talking about marijuana prohibition and toward talking about some of these more nuanced issues around young people. But clearly, our intent is once we stop arresting adults, right? Once we stop arresting adults who are not harming anyone, we can start to make the case that, we don't think our adults should be going through the criminal justice system. Why do we think our young people should be going through the criminal justice system? And now we're having a rational conversation around a substance that adults are allowed to have. And I think that it goes hand in hand with alcohol, where, minor in possession is an offense. But I think we understand that we try to treat that as not a criminal offense. And I think ultimately we need to move in that direction entirely.
We're speaking with Adam Smith from EndProhibitionAgain.com, the I-24 initiative to set a constitutional right to the personal use of cannabis. And that brings me to another question. Oregon's a really strange state in law here, in that 28 grams is a ticket and 29 grams is a Class B felony. So when it comes down to defining what a personal amount is, or how much you could grow personally, where do you think this is going to come down to?
That's an excellent question. Well, first of all, let's be clear that the ticket that you're talking about is a $1,000 fine, plus court costs that is often hundreds of dollars, plus a 6-month driver's license suspension, regardless of whether there was a vehicle involved, plus a permanent record that's public and searchable by schools, employers, landlords. So under an ounce is a pretty hefty penalty in Oregon, especially if you are young or not well off, and can really do a number on your life. But I think that the ounce right now is where they draw the line. And I think probably if this passes, the first thing the legislature will want to do is hold the line at that ounce. I think that's not. I think that's probably not a reasonable amount. But at least now we're having a conversation about where we start punishing people rather than how badly we punish people.
Okay. And with respect to the children again, I just wanted to get back to that for a second, because with the initiative, we are legalizing possession for adults, and we're not removing criminal penalties, especially as they deal with minors. So in the unlikely event that, I shouldn't say it that way. I should say in the event that this passes, but then the legislature doesn't do anything for commercial regulation, we still have a situation where no one's checking kids for ID, and we don't have laws, and we still have the existing criminal laws that would subject them to the problem of the best friend's mom finding him in the basement. So it seems to me that it would be, that could be a talking point for the opposition, is to say, well, here you are just making it legal, but not instituting any protections for the children. How would you deal with that?
Well, I think that this is the beginning of, it's not even the beginning of a conversation. It's a piece of a conversation. Prohibition is a 75-year-old institution with bureaucratic momentum, with a lot of money and careers behind it. We're not going to tear down the entire institution through one ballot initiative. What we think we can do with this ballot initiative, and do really effectively, is immediately end the arrest of adults who aren't hurting anyone, who are using this for personal use or growing it for personal use. And we think that gives us a beachhead, and a pretty strong beachhead, to begin the process of moving the rest of the laws. And again, by making this a constitutional amendment, by enshrining in the Constitution that this is not actually a crime to grow, to use, to have for adults, we start from a much different place, and the conversation is a much different conversation. We want to be careful about people, wishing that we could do everything with one initiative. And I tell you, I worked in drug policy for a long time back in a former life. I spent about 8 years working in drug policy, and it wasn't just marijuana; it was AIDS and needle exchange, and Latin American issues, and sentencing reform, and the right to consciousness, and all of the various issues that are subsumed under the drug war and under prohibition. And there are problems all over the place. And the Global Commission on Drug Policy this year, which includes multiple former heads of state from Latin America and Europe, business people, George Shultz, former Secretary of State of the United States. They came out with a set of recommendations. And what they said was the first thing the United States has to do is legalize marijuana as the first step in a series of reforms to start to deal with the overall problems of prohibition. And I agree with that. I think that, we have to take the step that we can take. And right now, we can immediately stop arresting adults for their personal recreational use of marijuana, for growing it, for having it, for using it. And I think from there, we start to have a conversation. We can stand up in a place of strength and start to have the conversations about what does this mean for young people? How do we want to treat our young people? What does this mean for over an ounce? What does this mean when you grow it? And we live in an agricultural state, and everyone knows that you have a harvest and you have a whole bunch of stuff comes in from the harvest, and then you use that for the whole year. Well, how do we build our laws around the reality of what people are going to do?
Yeah, like I've been saying for a long time, it's a lot easier to be citizens fighting to expand your rights than criminals trying to gain them.
100%. I think you have it exactly on the nose. If you don't mind, I'm going to borrow that and use that on the campaign show. Thank you.
That's my donation. One last question from our chat room. And
wait a minute. I don't get a check, man. I get that. I mean, that's gold. I mean, I understand that that's gold, but I still may ask you for a check.
Okay.
It's my job. You understand, right?
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely. All right. One last question we're getting from our chat room here wants to know, Oregon's had a history here of being very reluctant to amend its constitution. There's been a few constitutional amendment tries in the past few elections that have gone down. So what makes you confident that we can clear that hurdle of the constitutional amendment when it's failed on other issues in the past?
Man, I'll tell you, there's going to be 3, possibly 4, maybe even 5 initiatives across the West to legalize marijuana. By the time this happens, by the time the summer comes and the fall comes, people are going to be there's going to be so much attention on this issue. People are going to be so focused on what we're doing here that we're really not that concerned about the question that it's a constitutional amendment. We ended alcohol prohibition by constitutional amendment. We think it's vital that we can put something up statutorily and the legislature can come in and overturn it. We want to make sure that that's not going to happen, and we think that people are going to understand that it's a dying regime. Prohibition, but it's an entrenched regime, and we need to bring out the big guns to put it to rest. That's what we're doing, and we're pretty sure that people are gonna understand.
Well, I sure hope that it works, and of course I'm behind it. I really want to see this succeed, but I remember the last time Oregon got around to determining people's constitutional rights in the privacy of their own home, we banned gay marriage. So I hope it goes better than that this time.
I hope so, and first, and interestingly, I don't want to keep you too long, but if we reran that today, gay marriage would be legal in Oregon.
Oh yeah, it would fail.
And I think things change relatively quickly. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you having me on. And I'd just like to say, if you're listening to this, if you're in Oregon, stand with us, because if you're not standing with us, then you're getting in the way, and we need your help.
All right, endprohibitionagain.com. Want to thank Adam Smith for joining us. You're the campaign manager, is that right?
I am one of the directors. We have a team. I'm part of the campaign team. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
All right. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again. Good luck. When we come back,
Russ. Take care, man.
A little time for Toker Talk Radio and a little mini rant back after this.
You're listening to Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
That's the Dirt Ball from Suburban Noise Records, Cottonmouth Kings. This is Norml Show Live. Keep it right here, yeah.
What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earlywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations, expose pretensions, build personal relationships, and much more. He irreverently debunks the pseudoscience on the topic of humor and leaves readers not only funnier, but better informed. It's part of the Psych 101 series from Springer Publishing, Humor 101 by Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D.
Yeah, I watch MTV all the time. They have the Rock Against Drug commercials, that whole campaign. And these guys have, slid into fucking school buses and killed 20 children, Rather than a facial license, they made a public service announcement. Yeah, no shit. Yeah. I love these guys that is like, hello, listen, don't get caught with drugs or you'll have to do a commercial just like this one. I think I found the message. The message is don't get caught. Rock against drugs. What a fucking name. Somebody was high when they came up with this title. Yeah. It's like Christians against Christ. Rock created drugs. What are they talking about? They go together, folks.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Only about 30% of America's prisoners are considered dangerous enough to be a threat to society.
2.5 million people in prison, 62% there for soft, non-offensive drug convictions.
That belief, combined with a price tag close to $300 billion to capture, convict, and jail those prisoners, has folks from both the left and right questioning if there's a better, smarter way.
Few issues in these divisive times can bring liberals and conservatives together, but who we choose to punish and how has such a high cost both to individuals and society's pocketbook that it has brought liberals and conservatives together in a new joint effort at prison reform.
PBS talk show host Tavis Smiley and Princeton professor Cornel West want to reform a system they believe sweeps far too many poor folks and people of color behind bars while doing little to educate them.
It's warped priorities. Prisons over education.
We have to do something about these persons who need help as opposed to being locked up. That's where it has to start.
Groups from across the political spectrum are joining with them to push for radically changing who America imprisons.
How much do we spend on incarceration? Are we getting our money's worth? What is the cost-benefit analysis when somebody gets sentenced to prison?
Both sides agree it wastes tons of taxpayer dollars, plus human capital, as it imprisons and warps people who could otherwise still contribute to society.
The skills they learn to survive inside our violent prisons make them more dangerous when they get out. So we're undercutting public safety by sending low-risk offenders to prison.
It is time to switch. It's time to stop being tough and stupid. It's time to be smart and safe.
We have prisons for people we're afraid of, but we've been filling them with folks we're just mad at.
Two of the gentlemen who fit into that category of people we're not afraid of but just mad at are here at Prison Fellowship. And one of them was a White House official imprisoned for one of the most famous scandals of the 20th century, Watergate.
Lawyer Chuck Colson played the role of ruthless operative in Richard Nixon's White House. Becoming a convict after Watergate humbled him, and he surrendered his life to Christ.
I was in prison in Maxwell, Alabama. I was running the washing machine next door to the former chairman of the board of directors of the American Medical Association. He's running the dryer.
Colson says they lost their freedom, and society lost a lot too, as the duo did nothing but wash and dry clothes.
But it was ridiculous. I could have been helping inmates who were poor and needed legal services, or former inmates, or he could have been delivering babies in the city. There's all kinds of alternatives.
The Prison Fellowship founder believes crime has to be punished.
The taxpayers don't have to be punished in the process. When you put a guy like me in prison, he's spending $40,000 a year to support that person. He's not producing a thing. He could be producing things and paying back his victims restitution.
Prison Fellowship Vice President Pat Nolan once led the Republicans in the California Assembly before pleading guilty to a federal corruption charge and going to prison. He says nonviolent offenders like he was can still be useful if they're punished out in the community.
They can support their family, they can keep a job, they can pay taxes.
So some states, with tough on crime Texas taking the lead, are working to turn things around. The goal, imprison only the truly dangerous while punishing and rehabilitating everyone else on the outside.
And over $1 billion they've saved already.
Texas is really ground zero for cooperation between Tea Party activists NAACP activists on these issues.
They were able to take 3 prisons off the table that they had in the budget and use that money for drug treatment programs and mental health facilities for people in the community. 1/3 of it went to that. 2/3 of it went to help solve their budget problems.
This coalition of left and right points out these states are saving money. They're also seeing their crime rates drop lower than the states who keep building more prisons. And the fact these reforms have brought left and right together still raises eyebrows, like those of a legislator who once cornered Colson.
He said, I thought you were conservative. I said, I am. He said, but aren't you for lock them up? I said, yeah, but I'm not doing any danger to me. I just want to lock up dangerous people.
Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Prison Fellowship, Lansdowne,
That's
Virginia.
right. If you just heard that, that's CBN News. And if CBN doesn't ring a bell, that's the Christian Broadcasting Network. That's Pat Robertson's network, bringing together conservatives like Grover Norquist and Chuck Colson from Watergate in agreement with liberals like Cornel West and, well, I don't know if Tavis Smiley is necessarily liberal, but still. This is an issue we can all agree on. It's time to end the arrest and prosecution and warehousing of nonviolent marijuana offenders and nonviolent drug criminals. It's time to end it. We can all agree on it. It's time to start working on it. And you can help. Go to norml.org, look at the big green box on the right, and click on ACT to make your voice heard. For Ganja John and Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is Norml Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.